Welcome to the AT Parenting Survival Podcast, where you get help and guidance through the chaos of parenting a child with anxiety or OCD. This show is for educational purposes and is not intended to replace the guidance of a qualified professional. Here's your host, child therapist, Natasha Daniels.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the AT Parenting Survival Podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about 5 things, and actually there were so many more than 5, but I would just pick 5 things that I've learned so far raising multiple kids with multiple struggles, including anxiety, OCD, ARFID, which is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, emetophobia, social anxiety, ADHD. When you have 3 kids, you get a bit of alphabet soup. And I want to talk about the things that I've learned as a parent on the parent side, not as a clinician. And, I learned things from both perspectives. I learned things from my own experience, and I learned things from being a child therapist for 2 decades. And I actually learned a lot in my AT parenting community and getting a front row seat to parents who need support on a global level. But today I'm going to talk about my personal experiences, and maybe these will resonate with you as well, because these lessons that we learn are little gifts, little pockets of wisdom that I feel like I have learned from raising my kids with these struggles, but then I can apply it to other parts of my life and to the world in general. Before I get started, though, I do want to thank NoCD for sponsoring this episode. NoCD offers affordable, effective, convenient therapy, and they're available in the US and outside the US. You can schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if NoCD is the right fit for you and your child. Just go to treatmyocd.com. That is treatmyocd.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes as well. I also am having one of those rare moments where my AT parenting community is open. So if you want to be one of our members, we would love to have you over there. I open about 4 times a year, depending on if the wait list gets opened in between. And now is one of those times if you're listening to this in real life time. And so it is open today. My membership does close on Thursday. So this will be going out live on August 2nd. And the community will be closing on the 4th. So not a lot of time. I have probably been giving you a lot of notice ahead of time. And if you are getting my newsletter, which you should, if you listen to this podcast regularly, because then you won't miss anything, you have been getting emails about it. And if you're not on my newsletter, you can always register at natashadaniels.com/newsletter so you don't miss these things. But if you want to join the AT parenting community, in the AT parenting community, we support each other. A lot of the things that I've learned have been amplified and have been validated through the struggles that I've seen other parents have and from their own ahas that you learn when you're in a hive of like-minded individuals who are going through the similar stuff. So not only do you get a community, but you get weekly live classes taught by me. You get monthly support group calls that we jump on Zoom and support each other. We have kids support group calls, teen support group calls, and then you get access to over $500 worth of my online courses for being a member. And so it's right there in the app. It's right there on the member website. You can take those at any time. And you get a library full of prior classes, worksheets, and then I think this is actually the best part, but maybe I'm biased. You get access directly to me. You can message me in the app and we can have a conversation, and you can talk to me every single day if you want. And I will guide you through whatever struggles you're having, help connect you to resources, or give you that direction. So check it out at atparentingcommunity.com. Doors are closing on Thursday, August 4th. All right, let's jump into today's episode. So I had a lot of things I wanted to include in this, but I picked the 5 most important ones that really changed how I was showing up for these struggles. And as I list them, maybe think about your own list. What would your own list look like? Even if you're new to dealing with these struggles with anxiety and OCD with your kids, you're learning the whole way. It's just, we're learning whenever we are dealing with anything, and especially with hardships, we're always learning. All right, so my number one 1 out of 5. The first one that I've learned is to pace myself and watch my energy. This is a big one for me. And I think I'm starting to have this epiphany more as my kids get older. I probably wouldn't have picked that as one of the things I'm learning earlier on in this journey. But having now a 13, 15, and 21-year-old, I'm realizing that I need to slow this down, that I can't go full throttle 24/7. That this, and I say this a bit like ad nauseum maybe, but this is a marathon, not a sprint. I say that a lot. And I say that to remind myself as well that this isn't a race that you're going to get to the finish line. And you're certainly not going to sprint to that finish line. It's something we navigate. It's something that we hold space for. It's something that doesn't take up as much space during certain chapters of our life. And there's times where we have to hold more space for it. I think it's better to look at it like that, then I need to get to the finish line. I need to get to the cure. I need to eradicate this. I need to get rid of it. Because when you look at it from that lens, which a lot of us do, especially early on, there's this frenzied attitude and emotion that comes with that. I need to find the right answers and I need to find it right now. And even if you are in crisis, which a lot of you might be, that frenzied energy doesn't help the situation. It actually sometimes makes it worse. So when we're calm, and I just did the Anchor series recently, so hopefully you saw that or joined there. If you are an AT Parenting community member, you get access to those replays permanently. So watch it in the app so that you can benefit from it. But we're just talking about how we show up to our struggles is so important. And I have to slow my roll a lot and just say, I can't do this right now. In a couple of episodes back, I talked about like hitting the pause button sometimes, that I need to regroup. And it kind of reminds me, this is going to be the stupidest analogy, so just bear with me. I'm really into Pilates right now. Thank goodness my body's really happy that I'm finally liking exercise. But a lot of times I'm just a go-getter. I'm not physically a go-getter. I'm not really athletic, but I am into like nurturing my body. Anyway, when I first started Pilates, if we're doing reps and my body is on fire and it's burning, I'll still do it because I don't want to disappoint the instructor. And I don't want to give up. Like I just have this like determined rigidity, I think, in my personality. But as I've been doing this longer and longer, I've been doing it for like 4 months now. Lately, I've noticed that when I do that, I actually wind up injuring myself. I have a bad back, or sometimes my back isn't great. And there's good pain and there's bad pain. And sometimes when I don't like just take a little pause in the middle of doing a rep when my body is burning in a way that's not going to be helpful, or my back is straining in a way that's hurting in a bad way. And so now I pause. This morning I was in a class and it was like hurting in a not a good way. And I did, and I was like, I'm going to just stop for a second, catch my breath, let my muscle just relax and get back its energy, and then I'll start again. And then I'm not going to damage myself. I'm not going to be sore for 5 days because I injured myself versus, doing something healthy. For some reason, that kind of spoke to me about how we show up to our kids' anxiety and OCD. That sometimes like it's just burning and you're doing more damage and you have to stop. You have to just stop for a second. So learning to pace yourself and manage your energy is really important. I also know when I'm done. And that might be like a particular day where I'm overwhelmed. And I've learned to communicate that with my kids a little bit more, that my plate is running over. And my plate isn't just my kids, and your plate isn't just your kids. It's all other stuff that can add to your stress. And knowing when you have to conserve your energy or you have to do the bare minimum, that is really helpful. So that's number one. There's a couple of things involved in number one, but we're going to touch on those in the other numbers. So I'm going to move on from there. Okay, number two. This is a big one. Not all mental health professionals are the same. And so getting your kids the right help is really important. And I learned that somewhat the hard way. My kids were in therapy for a very long time with a nice practice, but they weren't skilled in anxiety and OCD. And I had this attitude of, I'm not going to find somebody who is skilled. I took my kids to somebody who was really horrible, who was supposed to be an ERP therapist and was really bad. And then there were a couple of other people that I knew who were ERP therapists, but they wouldn't see my kids for some reason. I guess they thought that was like conflict of interest, which I didn't understand. And so I kind of gave up, and my kids saw therapists that didn't have a specialty in OCD or anxiety. And even though most therapists can deal with anxiety, when our kids are dealing with OCD, anxiety, emetophobia, ARFID, like the whole family of alphabet soup related to anxiety and OCD, you want a specialist. And not all professionals are the same. My kids were, they were playing video games, and like they were killing time a lot of the time in therapy sessions. And so once I got them in with specialists, once SciPact happened, and for those of you that don't know what SciPact is, it is, I'm going to look it up so I can give you I want to give you the website. So if you go to SciPact, which is psypact.org/page/SciPact map, PSYPACT map, what that does is it gives licensing reciprocity across state lines. So if, for example, Arizona and Georgia are both in SciPact, which they are, then a Georgia psychologist can see people in Arizona, and an Arizona psychologist can see people in Georgia. And most states are involved in SciPact. Unfortunately, some that are not are California and New Mexico. What's the other one? There aren't that many that are not involved in SciPact, but I don't know why California, and I think maybe Washington, and there's a couple of other ones that I don't know. No, Washington is. There's another one that's up there. But anyway, you can take a look at the map. That was really helpful for me because, and unfortunately, it's only psychologists, which is unfortunate because there are a lot of good therapists that are not psychologists, and they have different degrees. And really what we're looking for when we're talking about finding the right professional is someone who is skilled in OCD, someone who has extra training in exposure response prevention, which is the go-to therapy modality for OCD. And if you're seeing somebody who is an ERP therapist or an ERP specialist, they're going to be skilled in anxiety typically as well, because they're going to be used to dealing with all of those type of things typically. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate it's just psychologists. I hope that they open that up for more. I'm an LCSW. I'm not a psychologist. And so I feel like there's a lot of great professionals that are not going to be included in that, which is too bad. But it's something more than nothing. And so when that happened, the world opened up to me, and I have a lot of colleagues in a lot of states. And so was fortunate to have a colleague who was like, oh, we'll absolutely be able to take you on. And so that opens the doors for you too. Do not waste time with a therapist who has no skill in OCD if your child has OCD, because they can do more damage than good. And I've learned that just from my own kids. My kids, I felt like, wasted a lot of time in therapy. And with my son who has ARFID, so ARFID is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, which is, you can look it up. I have episodes on ARFID, but it's a really hard thing to treat. And I feel like he's not making a lot of progress, but I don't feel like it's because the therapist isn't good. I just feel like the disorder is so hard. It's just such a hard disorder. And we're going to talk about that in a second in one of my other numbers. But I know he's in good hands, and I know my daughter's in good hands. I know these are skilled therapists. And so it helps me feel like I'm not alone. It helps me feel like, okay, there's a professional who's dealing with this. And as your kids get older, they'll listen to a professional sometimes more than they'll listen to you. Not always, but I find that that's true in my case, that it's just better to have somebody else telling them things, and someone who's neutral and not tapped out and exhausted, that helps too, because we are often exhausted. And getting a team who is skilled is really important. And if you don't have a team, you can start with like the International OCD Foundation's provider directory at iocdf.org/find-help. NoCD has been really helpful in filling the gaps. They sponsor this episode, but even if they didn't, I am a huge fan of NoCD because they are filling in the gap and they're providing virtual assessments for OCD and virtual therapy globally all over the world. So you can see if NoCD is in your area. They are in, I think, all 50 states. So you should probably be able to find them at treatmyocd.com. So that's another option. But not all professionals are the same. Learn that the hard way. Most parents have learned that the hard way. So that's a good one to take away. Okay, on to number 3. This one is a hard one for a lot of us. And I struggle with this one periodically for lots of different reasons. So number 3 is don't take things personally. And I mean this in 2 vastly different ways. For me, it's taking things personally, like the behavior, right? That's probably what you thought I meant. And as my kids get older, and I'm sure if you have older kids, you're experiencing this possibly too, but they're a little bit spicier. Like they're a little bit more prickly. And I'm like, where did my loving kids go? What is happening here? Even my most loving kid is a little prickly right now at 13. And it's hard to not take some of those things personally when they're triggered and when they're angry and when their anxiety or OCD or their struggles. My son also has ADHD. We've got all things going on here that can create a lot of impulsivity that is hard not to take personally. Whether it's them being mouthy to you or disrespectful, that really rubs me the wrong way. When you're being ignored, that's really hard for me. Or when they are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or they're not working on their stuff. Sometimes we take that personally. That has been an issue for me in the past too, where like, why are you not doing this when I'm telling you to do this to make things better? Actually struggled the most with that with my oldest, who's 21, and I've kind of given up, which we're going to talk about. That's a number. Don't worry. We're getting there. But I realized I can't take this personally because I'll say, you're having this issue and these are the things that can help, or have you tried this? And just a clear block. I found out later down the road that ironically, my oldest daughter, who always felt like she was not listening to me at all, had secretly read my book, Anxiety Sucks, and said it helped her. I didn't even know she read it. Isn't that funny? So sometimes what we see isn't what we get. But the other thing that I sometimes take personally, and maybe this will resonate with you as well, is it's hard for me to sometimes feel like I'm not a failure when my kids are struggling. Like we own their struggles to the point where their struggle is our struggle and their suffering is our failure. Do you ever feel that way? And that's hard. I think I have the extra layer of, being this mouthpiece. So I sometimes feel like the poster child of what should be, like this idyllic version of this journey. And maybe that's just pressure I'm putting on myself. But that's an added layer that I mean, separate from me feeling like, I'm the poster child and I need to like model perfect outcomes. I think a lot of parents feel like the failure, and I use failure in air quotes, but the failure, and I'm using that word because that's how it feels, is on them. If I could just get them in the right therapy, say the right words, do the right things, coach them in the right way, they would get better. And so because they're not getting better, that's on me. And I've had to, and I'm going to save this because it's my 5th one, but I've had to pivot from that and say, I am not as big a part of this as I'm making. I think sometimes we can interject ourselves in situations where we think we play a bigger role than we do. And I know being a parent is a pretty big role. But it is not our journey. And I say this a lot to members of the community. I'm like, we're one piece of the puzzle. I say that a lot too. And yeah, it's an important piece, but it's only one piece of an entirely big puzzle. And a lot of it has to do with, the biology of our child, physiologically how they're doing, anxiety, OCD, ARFID, very physiological disorders, highly genetic, and we don't get to control genetics or physiologically what things are happening in our child's brain. What medication is going to work or not work, whether they're going to want to take medication or not, whether we get a good therapist or not. Sometimes we don't know for a little while. So we're playing, ring around the rosy, ring around the rosy. I was trying to think of the right word for that. Musical chairs. That's what I was actually, or musical chairs with therapists, right? Because you're like, nope, not that one, not that one. Let me try this one. And so also our child's temperament has a lot to do with it. And I've noticed like each one of my kids is different and I can't control the pace of how well they do. And that the burden isn't on me solely to fix this, and that sometimes if I put the burden on me, I actually become too intense for my kids and I wind up making things even worse. And I don't know if you've experienced that, but sometimes when we think this is our deal 100%, like there's no pie that's like divided, it's like 100% us. Either we're doing well and then our child does well, or we're not doing well and our child's not doing well. And giving no ownership to our child, to their biology, to their environment, to their temperament, to the medication, to the therapy, like all these moving parts that have nothing to do with us. So that's number 3. Now, for the first 3, I can take these life lessons and I can apply them to lots of different things, like learning to pace myself, tap into my energy. When am I feeling drained? When am I not? The second one is like, just because someone's a professional doesn't mean that I have to give them my full trust. Having a critical eye, I've learned, is really important when I'm shopping around for doctors. I have a say now. When I had like a lot of struggles with my social anxiety, I felt like I gave my power away to professionals. So if somebody was a professional outside of what I'm a professional in, I felt like they knew better than me. Like a doctor knew better than me, or, somebody who's giving me advice knew better than me. And now, as I've kind of come into my own a little bit more, I realize that just because someone is a professional doesn't mean they're the right fit for me, that I can advocate for myself. So that's a good life lesson. And the third one that we talked about, not taking things personally, that's just a great one on a global scale. Not everything is about me. And I've learned that with my social anxiety, that I make everything about me, and not in a narcissistic, self-absorbed way, but an insecure anxiety sort of way, like they don't like me, or they're staring at me, or this is going to look stupid. And now that I don't struggle with that as much, I look back and I think, or I watch my kids struggle with it, and I'm thinking, why would you care about that? My daughter, I just took her to the airport, my 21-year-old, and she was worried that she had 2 big suitcases and a backpack, and that this was going to be so embarrassing. And I just couldn't even wrap my brain around it. Like, you're going to the airport. Like, why is that embarrassing? Like, you have luggage. Like, people go to the airport and have luggage, but not that much, Mom. They don't have that much luggage. 2 big suitcase. I'm like, well, you're coming back from college. Like, you're going back to college. Like, you have a lot of stuff. You've been home for the summer. It didn't matter what I said, because when you're in it and you think everybody's staring at you, or you're like, you think it's like this self-consciousness on on steroids, and you can't talk someone out of that. But I have learned in my old age and my wisdom and just all my work with social anxiety, I'm not going to take things personally. A lot of times it's not about me, and that's okay. Let's take a break. I have 2 more. These are the most important in my opinion, and I hope that they are things that you're learning as well, or that you will learn. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's time we put help directly in our kids' hands. Introducing Crushing OCD course for kids and teens.
It was way more helpful than all the other therapy we've ever done because we didn't really know what to do. So we weren't really doing it before. So the course helped to figure out what the exposures are and how to do them.
We're not in therapy and find it really hard to find an ERP trained therapist here. So we're currently with like the public health service, but again, they don't seem to be trained in ERP. It's filled that gap that we don't have that was desperately needed.
This was really well timed for us to use between therapists and to help us get off to a good start with this new practice.
It was easy to use. I was able to do it from my phone or also on the computer.
There's different ages, so there were younger kids, there were teenagers, and so that was really nice too, to have a variety of ages where it wasn't just geared towards younger kids or older kids. It was a nice variety.
It's helpful for our kids to hear it from this third party as opposed to just us saying it.
I really like the offense and defense method. I love working on poking at OCD while it's sleeping. It makes it a little bit easier to do, and it's kind of fun. I'm planning on using it to work on my fear of holding or touching batteries and stuff like that.
So it was really helpful, and I think a lot of other kids would like it. I thought that I was the only one who had worrying about the weather and stuff. And then there was somebody else on there who worried about the same thing, which was really helpful.
Seems less scary to work on stuff now that I've watched this class, and I'm more interested to work on it.
I like trying to do more exposures still, and before I wasn't, I just didn't want to do them.
I've worked on some of my bigger compulsions and been successful.
I realized that it was helpful to do the exposures. Before it was really, really hard. It's still hard, but it's helpful to know that I need to do them.
Before there would be a lot of battles about it. So it is definitely less loggerheads.
Really, really good course and super helpful.
Definitely would recommend this. It's really easy to follow. It's nice bite-sized videos. I really like the worksheets that go along with it, and I think it's really helpful.
To learn more about this course and register your child or teen, go to atparentingsurvivalschool.com.
Welcome back. All right, so I covered my first three: pacing myself and energy. Number 2, not all professionals are the same. I think a lot of us are learning that. Third one, don't take things personally, whether that is your child's success or failure or just their behavior, because they'll say really horrible things when you're not feeding the anxiety and OCD. You're a terrible parent. You're not helping me. You don't know what you're talking about, right? All that. That's really fun. But I have 2 more, and these are really important. So the fourth one, and this is going to sound cheesy, but stick with me. It's self-compassion. Nobody wants to talk about self-compassion, or maybe some of you don't, but we are so hard on ourselves. I have been so hard on myself. So I don't have multiple me's. I'm so hard on myself, not my multiple selves. It's very easy to be like that. And I have had Mamazilla moments, and I talk about them a lot because I want you to know, I want to normalize it. And it has taken me a long time to be self-compassionate about that. The rebound, the hangover of feeling guilty after a Mamazilla or a Dadazilla moment, was very long for me in the past. It would be a Mamazilla because I'm not a Dadazilla, but it would last a while where I'd feel like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst parent. And then I go into the spiral of, I'm a fraud. I'm not, why should I shouldn't have a podcast about this or courses or a member community, because if anybody saw me, they'd think, oh my gosh, she's out of control. We all have those moments where we want to just hide and rewind and take it back, but we can't. And that shame hangover used to last a really long time for me. And then I've moved into, especially in the last few years where I'm really trying to work on myself, is I'm human and I need to have some self-compassion that this is hard. And taking care of myself has become a huge priority, which again can kind of sound a little bit self-absorbed. But if I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to be able to take care of my kids. And taking care of how I'm handling things and my emotional well-being is equally important, because if I'm not okay emotionally or physically, I'm not going to be able to be for my kids. So that shame hangover has shrunk. I feel bad for a little while. I normally it depends on how bad it was. You know? I mean, sometimes I slam a door. Sometimes I just walk away, and they're in mid sentence because I can't engage anymore. Going back to my number one, pace myself in energy. I'm just like, that happened last night. My son was just being like, just difficult. And I saw the conversation was going nowhere fast and I just walked away. And then I had a shame hangover for a little while where I was like, that's not cool. You shouldn't just walk away mid sentence. Like, you wouldn't want someone to do that to you. It's disrespectful. But then that self compassion came in where I was like, but if you stayed, you probably would have said something that you would have regretted. You were just trying to get out of the line of fire as fast as you could. I literally went to my room and I locked the door. He wasn't even following me. I just needed to be away. And I'm sure most of you can relate. But then recognizing, okay, next time you're not going to want to do that. Or maybe next time you do that, but you were doing it for a good reason because you were done. And if you stayed around any longer, you were going to lose it. So it could have been worse. But that self-compassion piece is something that's missing for a lot of people. Is it missing for you? Do you ever talk to yourself in a way that has some compassion to it, to be like, look, that was hard. Yeah, you lost it. But you know what? You're human. And the fact that you care now and the fact that you feel bad about it says something good about you. I don't know if a lot of people do pep talks like that to themselves, but it's something to do. I do a lot. I'm always I'm very weird and cheesy right now, but I'm I'll say in my head, I'm so proud of you, Natasha. Look at you, you're killing it. All my inner dialogue, I would say 90% of it lately is positive because I've trained my brain. I've really worked hard on training my brain to take care of me because there's nobody taking care of me. I don't have a husband anymore. He passed away. My family, I've got a family that's not in this state, and so they're all over the place. Both my parents are dead. It's not a woe is me, but it's just if I don't take care of myself, who's going to take care of me? And even if you are in a relationship or you have a lot of family, you might still feel that way because really we're alone in this journey of life. I mean, nobody can be you. And the only person who's going to be with you your entire life is yourself, which I know that might seem really obvious to a lot of you. You're like, yeah, okay, Natasha, that was rocket science. But I don't think sometimes we think about it. Really, the only person that you can guarantee will be in your life is you. And sometimes I think that perspective, I have that perspective because of the sudden death of my husband. I think when you're super close to somebody and they're your go-to person and they're totally fine one day and then boom, they're gone the next, it kind of does something to your perspective on stability. I don't want to go on a tangent, but I'm just saying that's where it's coming from, is that I recognized in that period of my life and onward that I need to be compassionate with myself because I am the only one that's going to be with me on this journey. People will come and go. They will come and go. Even your closest people will come and go. The only person who will be with you that you can absolutely guarantee is yourself, and how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you coach yourself, how you cheer yourself. That's important because that's the voice that's going with you. So I have learned to become my best friend. I know that sounds stupid, but it's helped a lot. So self-compassion, that's a really big one that I've been learning on this journey of helping my kids. Okay, the final one, and the most important one, I think, and the one that I'm currently working on, is learning to let go of control and moving into acceptance. Oh, that's a hard one. That's a daily practice. I mean, a lot of these are daily practices. The pace myself, don't take things personally, the self-compassion, almost all of them, I guess, but number 2 is a daily practice. I mean, not all professionals are the same. I don't need to know about that every day. But the other ones are daily practices for me. And maybe they are for you too, or maybe they will be for you. But what do I mean by letting go of control? I think for a long time until recently, specifically with my son's ARFID, I had this attitude of like, I need to push this so hard and then he's going to get better. Kind of like what I was talking about when I was talking about number one, pace myself and energy, like a finish line. And I think just because we've been at it for so long, he's had severe ARFID since he was 8. And then it's gotten better and then it's gotten worse. And then he had great medication and then he had to go off of it. And so, it's been almost half his life. And so it's been almost 8 years. That's a long time. He has an expert ARFID therapist. Like, he's got the best treatment he could possibly have. And he's got me as a mom, and I'm not like toot, but like I know what I'm doing. So he's surrounded by, he's got, I think, the go-to ARFID therapist currently. He's got me as a mom who has knowledge and expertise, and things are not getting better. And so, we're like treading water, or he's treading water. I shouldn't say we, because that's merging his journey with my journey. It's not a we, it's a he. Not getting better. And I'm realizing that this might be something that he's going to struggle with his entire life. My goal is to support him. I connect him with specialists and doctors and give him the support. But ultimately, I can't shove food down his throat for him. I can't make him like things that he doesn't want to eat. And it gets even harder as they get older, where they get, developmentally appropriately stubborn, which that's the developmental phase they're in, which is I don't listen to my parent. And that makes it 10 times harder when you're dealing with these mental health issues, because they don't want to hear from you. And they're in a stage where they're supposed to be a little rebellious and a little bit indignant. And, you don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me how to live my life. That's kind of developmentally appropriate. But then you add these struggles and it's hard. And so there's been a lot of hands off lately of, I'm going to micromanage a little bit, but this realization of he's got to figure this out himself. I can't figure it out for him. Even if I wanted to, I can't do it for him. And that's the case for all of our kids, especially as they get older. We cannot figure this out for them. They have to do it themselves. And so that moves me into acceptance of what I can and cannot control. I can control how I show up to his struggles. I can control, that I go and I get him food when he is really losing a lot of weight. We're kind of in this stage right now where I'm ordering food out a lot. That's something I can provide. I still can't make sure that he eats it, but I can provide that. I can provide, paying for good therapy, making sure he makes it to his appointments, but I can't control whether he does anything with what he's taught in therapy, and I can't control whether he does any of the work outside of therapy, which is minimal to zero, to be honest. I can't control that. And even therapists can't control that. And so there is a lot of letting go of control in this journey with anxiety, OCD, whatever struggle you're dealing with. And with my 13-year-old, I can't control whether she's feeling anxious or panicky. Currently, we're having health issues with her, and I can't control whether that gets worse or not. And so I have to move into acceptance too, that she is really struggling right now with severe fatigue and we don't know what's going on. And I can just connect her with the doctors, and I have to just accept that this is a chapter that's happening right now. And the more I fight it, the harder it is. It's like being in heat and then being like, oh my gosh, it's so hot. That's definitely an Arizona reference because it's very hot right now. But when you're already in a hot place and then you're like telling people, I'm so hot. It's so hot. I'm dying. And it feels even 10 times hotter. That's kind of what it's like. It's like it's already hard. And then when you're like, this is so hard and this is never going to get better. And like, it just feels even worse. And sometimes moving into acceptance and being like, yeah, you know what? This does suck right now. And we're having a chapter. We're having one of those, it's a nasty chapter and it's going to pass. But it is what it is. I'm not going to just wait and try to like flip the pages quicker because I don't get to control the pace of the story. Which really is annoying, to be honest. But it's realistic. So those are some of the things I've learned while I've been in the throes of raising a kids with anxiety and OCD and ARFID, social anxiety, ADHD, health anxiety, emetophobia, all sorts of stuff. What have you learned? Maybe you didn't know what you learned until this episode, and now you're like, well, maybe I have learned a couple of things, or I would add this. I would love to hear it. So I hope that you found this helpful. I think it's always good to get an interesting perspective while we're going through these things, because sometimes we don't realize what we're learning from this struggle and how we can apply that to other things in our life as well. And this is happening to you as much as it's happening to your child. This is your life as much as it is your child's life. And so I'm a learner by nature. I'm always like, what am I taking away from this? Because I don't want just something bad happening to me. And this might be just my perspective. You may not share this, but I don't want something bad happening to me without some sort of lemonade. It's like the whole like cliche, like life gives you lemons, so you make lemonade. I think that's a little bit of my mentality. I mean, even with my husband's death, which I know that's really weird, but I'm like, what am I getting from this? What am I learning from this? What am I taking away from this? I don't want to learn from this. I don't want this to happen to me. It's not like you're wanting this or trying to like try to throw some toxic positivity at a situation. It's being realistic, but it's also saying, what am I learning from this? Because I learned from everything. I mean, life is a teacher, and it's a waste to not really recognize what it's teaching us on some level. So anyway, I hope that's just an interesting perspective for you to think about today. Hope that you're finding the podcast helpful. If you are, don't forget to hit a star, write a review. I don't think I have any to read. I haven't seen any new ones coming up, so I will be reading yours next time. I do hope that you find the sparkle in everything you do. And don't forget to join us in the AT Parenting community, because that is another way to really learn how to navigate this journey and the bumps that it throws at you by being part of a community. You can learn literally, academically, because I've got tons of courses in there. And I do a live class every single week with handouts and all sorts of stuff. But then you can just talk to me, and you can talk to other members. So if you're wanting to connect with people, and we have got people all over the world. We've got people obviously in the United States, but we have people in Canada and in the UK, Ireland, Australia, a couple of people in the Middle East. We've got people all over the world. So we would love for you to join us. Check it out at atparentingcommunity.com. And I hope that you find the sparkle in everything you do. And I'll talk to you again next Tuesday. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the AT Parenting Survival Podcast. To get additional support raising a child with anxiety or OCD, visit Natasha's online school of on-demand classes at atparentingsurvivalschool.com.